This episode is in partnership with Fantasy WSL, the biggest fantasy game in women's football. Fantasy WSL is where you can manage your own squad and earn points for real-life performances. Rise through the ranks in leagues against your friends and fellow managers. Keep up to date with the WSL results and fixtures with Gameweek and live match notifications. Head to fantasywsl.net or download the app from your app store and get started today. Hello everybody and welcome to Decoding the WSL, the podcast dedicated to the stats and facts in the WSL. On today's episode we're going to be having a look ahead to this weekend's games and to the two games that are in midweek. We've obviously got a double game week because of the Subway Cup final coming up in a few weeks' time. I'm your host, Stattorino. Yes, listener, welcome to Decoding the WSL on this Game Week 15 preview. It is Monday the 24th of February as I'm talking to you. There's a few games we need to get through today. Normally we've just got the 6 coming up at the weekend, which we do have on Sunday, but we've also got 2 more coming up in midweek, which we're going to cover off kind of in a little bit of brief all today. You've only got me today, haven't got a guest this week, but there's a lot being planned at the moment. There will be more guests coming on, and I did earlier today record an episode with Leicester and Scotland defender Sophie Howard. Keep an eye on your feeds. That'll be coming out probably the start of next week. Planning to release that on Monday if everything goes to plan. Monday that'd be the 3rd, I think, of March. So keep an eye out for that. But this weekend we have 6 games coming on Sunday plus 2 in midweek. Sunday starts with Man Utd and Leicester at 12:30, the best defence in the league against the bluntest attack. Then Aston Villa have lost their last 3 but will be hoping to come unstuck against the Toffees. That one's at 2 p.m. Crystal Palace will be trying to close the gap on 11th as they host a Liverpool side that could get into the top half with a win. City are in North London and will be needing to beat the white side on Sunday to keep up their hopes of finishing ahead of the red side in the WSL table. Frank Kirby hosts her former side Chelsea for the first time, Brighton hoping to maintain their unbeaten home record in the WSL this season. And finally on Sunday, West Ham will be hoping to replicate what their men's team did last weekend, getting a win away at Arsenal. Then we've got the 2 midweek games, Man City and Chelsea obviously playing the Subway Cup final on 15th of March. Games have been rearranged, so this is a double game week. On Wednesday evening we'll also see West Ham, Man City and Chelsea against Leicester. But we're going to start today's pod with Sunday's match between Spurs and City. Yes, Sunday 2 p.m. at Brisbane Road is Man City away at Spurs. This head-to-head has been a bit of a strange one in recent times. I had a look into it. Spurs won the last match between these two that was at Spurs. This one was also at Brisbane Road in the FA Cup last season. Back in March last year, Spurs won 4-3 on penalties after it finished 1-1. This same fixture last season, however, in the league was 2-0 to Man City. The visitors victorious. Amy James-Turner getting an own goal and then Bunny Shaw rounding off the scoring, as she so often does. Spurs, as they go into this game, aren't in the best run of form. They've actually lost 4 of their last 5 in all competitions, and they haven't scored in their last 3. They do tend to win or lose, basically, at home, because in all competitions, they haven't actually drawn a game since April last year. Man City, however, in all competitions, have not kept a clean sheet in an away game since they played against Palace on the 3rd of November. So that's been quite a while for them since they've managed to keep a clean sheet. Obviously, with no Alex Greenwood at the moment, that's probably one of the reasons for that. Man City have conceded 2 in each of their last 3 WSL games, so sort of just goes a little bit further to show that defensively they're not quite there at the moment. I think going forward, obviously they're getting players back to fitness, like Bunny Shaw. Mary Fowler's in really good form, so is Viv Miedemar. Carolyn's coming in. The list goes on, doesn't it? Bunny Shaw is actually the top scorer in the league, unsurprisingly, with 11 goals this season. Bethany England is not that far behind. She's 3rd with 7, only 1 behind second place, Alessia Russo on 8. Mary Fowler has recently taken the accolade of having the most assists in the WSL this season. She took that away from her teammate Lauren Hemp. Mary Fowler is now on 6. In fact, Bunny Shaw and Mary Fowler are now the players with the joint most goal involvements this season, so that is your goals plus your assists. They both have 12. So, looking at all of those, you'd probably expect that Man City are going to have an easy win here, but if you look back at the form of recent games in the WSL, looking at their last 5 games, Spurs have actually picked up more points. Spurs have 7 points in their last 5 games. Man City only have had 6, 2 wins and 3 losses. So Spurs, in a way, are probably the most informed team out of these two. In terms of how I think this fixture is going to go, though, I think it will definitely have a slow start. I was looking at the stats for like the first goal in a match from these two teams. Spurs in a home game average 44th minute for a first goal. City average 51st minute. So City often have a slow start away from home. Most of the time not scoring until the second half. So I can imagine a slow start to this game, maybe 0-0 or 1-0 to one team at half time. I think in the second half, though, City, as they often do, will hit their stride and they will come out on top. I think they've got so many informed forward players, especially like we've mentioned, your Bunny Shaw, your Mary Fowler, Viv Miedema obviously has a lot of class to her. We haven't even talked about Jill Roord yet. City are just going to be able to score at least 2 or 3 goals, I think, in this game. I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet. Spurs will get on the score sheet. I wasn't 100% sure exactly what scoreline I'm going to go with in this one for my prediction. I think it's going to be a City win. I'm relatively confident in that. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, a narrow 2-1. Elsewhere this Sunday, obviously, as I mentioned, Manchester United and Leicester are getting us underway. Manchester United are the most informed team in the league. They are the only team that have won their last 5, and they've actually won their last 6. So they are, really hitting the ground running, masking the side. No team outside the top 4, however, has taken more points in their last 5 WSL games than Leicester. They have had 7 points in their last 5 games. Obviously, the top 4 of Manchester United, Chelsea, City, and Arsenal. Outside of that, Leicester are doing pretty well, but their away form is letting them down. Their home form has been very good. They've already got more points at home this season than they managed last season, but they've actually lost their last 5 on the road in the WSL, so it's going to be a real task for them this Sunday. Manchester United have only conceded 2 goals this season so far in the 7 home games that they've played. 2 goals in 7 games is an insanely good defensive record. Leicester, unfortunately, are the absolute inverse. In away games this season, they have played 7 and only scored 2, which goes to show that going forward, they have really struggled this season. Manchester United, I think, will be of a similar quality as they usually are. They've got, most of the same players, especially at the back, still available. Leicester are a little bit different. They are really getting there with their forward firepower. They've obviously signed a new Finnish striker. In January, they are getting some of their more attacking players back to fitness. I believe Lena Peterman might be available this weekend. Shannon O'Brien is obviously back in action. We still don't know about players like Yutarantala, but Leicester are looking a bit better going forward, as well as still being very resolute defensively. They've conceded the fewest goals other than the teams in the top 4 this season. In terms of how I think this game is going to go, I do think Manchester United are going to come out on top. I think it's going to be a clean sheet for Manchester United. I think although Leicester are starting to look like they're scoring more goals, I do think Manchester United's defence is just too good. Other than maybe Chelsea, it doesn't really matter who comes up against them. Their defence is good enough to keep them pretty quiet. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Manchester United win. Then we're going to take a look at Villa against Everton. Villa are the only team in the WSL to have lost their last 3 games, both home and away. So it's not really looking great for Villa at the moment. They've obviously had a new manager in pretty recently. And I guess she just needs a bit of time to get her feet under the table, get into the swing of it. I think she comes with a lot of pedigree, obviously having left Real Sociedad in the summer. Been waiting for the right move to go to, and she's hoping Aston Villa is that one. Aston Villa did announce today as well that Adriana Leon has left the club. I think she is a player that obviously the manager isn't maybe not too fussed about having let her go. I don't really know what it was, Aston Villa, that she never really got enough playing time. She didn't really get much under Robert DePaul. She didn't really get much when she was at Manchester United either, and obviously Natalia Arroyo isn't overly keen on keeping her either. I think she's really good. It seems to be whenever she plays for Canada, she does really well. She got a bit of a run in the side when Sean Gota was in interim charge. I thought she did pretty well. So yeah, I don't really know what the reasons are as to why she's going. I think she'd be a good asset to most teams in the WSL, but obviously for her to go and play in the NWSL will be useful to her. It's a bit closer to home. Obviously she's from Canada, and she'll be getting a full season there rather than leaving at the end of the WSL season only getting a half there. So good luck to her with her next step in her career. Back to this game though, Everton I want to talk about a little bit because they are only one of 4 teams that are yet to win away this season. Everton are a team that have really stepped up since Christmas. They've obviously been taken over in the last few months. Both the men's side and the women's side have had a bit of attention, a bit of an injection from the new board, from the new owners, I should say. So, and you can start seeing that come through on the pitch. They're doing quite well at home. Kelly Gargo is definitely a player that's been hitting some headlines. Tony Payne has been doing a lot better in the last few weeks as well. They are 2 players that I think are going to do really well for them. Hayley Ladd is one that's also very underrated. But yeah, as I say, they've still not won away in the WSL this season. And I'm not 100% sure how this game's going to go, to be honest, because it's, a team that has lost their last 3 against a team that has not won away from home. I think it's going to be quite close. Everton are probably generally the more informed team, obviously, because they haven't lost their last 3. But Villa are a team that is really good at putting in good performances, just not quite getting the result. Like they put in the right kind of performances that they should. They deserve something out of a game and still come away not quite getting the result they want. So for that reason, I'm going to go for an Everton win in this game. I think it could well be a draw. I think if one of the teams wins, it's only going to be by a goal. I think Villa will put in a good performance. I think they'll get on the score sheet. But yeah, so many times this season. I think last season this happened a bit as well. They had a really good performance, but just couldn't get over the line. A result they probably didn't deserve. And I think that might happen again. So I'm going to go for an Everton 2-1 win. Then we move on to Palace against Liverpool. This one is also at 2:00 on Sunday. Palace are actually on the longest winless streak in the WSL with 11 games. They won away at Leicester on the 2nd of October and have not won a WSL game since. Just draws and losses, both home and away. It's not looking great. I think they're, off the top of my head, 4 points away from 11th. They're dropping down in the relegation zone, and unfortunately, I think they're not going to get any closer this weekend. I do think Liverpool have got enough to come out on top. Liverpool have not been amazing this season, but they've not been terrible either. They're in the top half for a reason. So yeah, I think they're going to have enough to get by Palace. Palace are, however, very good at getting on the score sheet. Similar to last season, they do score more goals than you necessarily would expect a team in their position to do. But yeah, they're just not getting through enough. I don't think they are defensively solid enough. I don't think their goalkeeper, whether it's been Majasari or Shea Inez, has looked particularly convincing. And I think Liverpool are just going to have too much for them, especially when you've got players like Olivia Smith. And Marie Herbinger is now back as well. So I'm going to go for a Liverpool win in this one. I'm going to go for 3-1. The next game I want to talk about is Brighton against Chelsea. Brighton are unbeaten at home this season, which kind of surprised me a little bit because we know Brighton had such a good start to the season. They really overachieved before Christmas, and they've kind of got to Christmas, had the break, have come back, and have just been quite a different team, and not in a good way. They have been very average. They've not looked the same self that they once were, dominating games. Well, I guess they're still having a lot of possession, but they're just not doing much with it. I think there's an element of that teams are just getting used to playing against them, and are getting used to their style. Obviously, Dario Vidic has come in the summer, has implemented something a bit different for Brighton. It's maybe caught teams by surprise. Now they're getting used to it. They've seen the video of what he plays like. They're working against it. And I don't think Chelsea, obviously, are going to be any different to that. I think, if anything, they're going to be the best at it, at doing what they need to do to quash Brighton's play. Chelsea are obviously on a really strong run under Sonia Bompastor. They've won every competitive game this season, other than one, which was away at Leicester. So yeah, Brighton, as well as being unbeaten at home this season, they are, however, winless in their last 6. That is both home and away. So they've obviously lost a couple of away games. I think they went to Manchester United, and they went to Liverpool. And then recently at home, they're only getting draws. I think that unbeaten run is going to come to an end, which is unsurprising when you're playing against a team like Chelsea. I'm going to go for a 2-0 Chelsea win. The final game on Sunday is Arsenal against West Ham. West Ham will be, as I mentioned, hoping to replicate the men's team result last weekend, winning away at Arsenal, but hopefully for them with a bit of a better performance. I think the West Ham team for the men had something like 34% possession, whereas Ryan Skinner will be having to put in a bit of a better performance and dominate a bit more of the ball if they can. It is going to be difficult, though, because Arsenal are a team under Rennie Slagers who have been in very good form. They've kept clean sheets in their last 4 home games in the WSL, and I think they might make it 5. To be honest, Arsenal have so much strength and depth in their squad. Obviously, Rennie Slagers inherited a pretty good team from Jonas, and she's doing really well with it. Maybe not quite as well as that sort of initial, 7 or 8 game period where they were just winning. But probably still well enough to get the better of West Ham. I think it'll be a relatively comfortable win. I'm going to go for 3-0 on this one. Then let's go over to Wednesday's game. So obviously we have 4 teams that will be playing twice in this sort of game week, especially a game week, as Fantasy WSL users will be aware. So West Ham versus Man City and Chelsea Leicester, that were supposed to be on the same weekend as the Subway Cup final, are now being played this midweek coming, or the next midweek, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this. I'm going to start off with a West Ham Man City result. These are obviously a bit difficult to predict because there's another game between now and then, and just over a week away. There's actually 9 days from when I'm recording to when the matches are. So don't be surprised if these aren't a prediction that, if I put anything out on social media close to the time, that I might change. But for now, I'm going to go for a Man City win away at West Ham. I think they're going to have enough to get by, but I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet in this one. West Ham have looked good. People like Vidic, especially at home, have looked really good for West Ham. And I don't think West Ham are going to get through this game without scoring. So West Ham will get on the score sheet, but I'm only going to go for 1, and I'm going to go for 3 goals for Man City. It'll be Bunny Shaw's, I think, 3rd game back from injury. Should be getting back into the swing of it, back into full flow after the international break as well. So I can imagine her getting a couple of goals. Maybe someone like a Mary Fowler or Jill Rule or someone like that getting in on the action as well. 3-1 Man City. Then we've got Chelsea Leicester. This is one that I am quite interested to see how it goes. Obviously, Leicester are the only team that Chelsea have played and haven't beaten this season. They drew 1-1. When was it? Sort of mid-December, I think, in their game at the King Power. Unfortunately, as much as we all love an underdog, and we all want, apart from Chelsea fans, we probably all want Leicester to do well in this one. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think Chelsea are just going to keep going. They're going to keep winning. I think they're going to make Leicester work for it, and Leicester will work for it. They will defend very well. They have a very good defensive record. I believe Leicester have only conceded 1 more goal than Man City this season, for example. But Chelsea will find a way or two through the Leicester defence. They will get a couple of goals, so I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Chelsea. We obviously covered off a bit of what happened last game week with Izzy in the previous episode. If you haven't listened to that, go have a listen back. She was a really good guest to have on. Izzy Duddy, that is the Director of Strategy at Fantasy WSL. She gave us some really good insights about the team at Fantasy WSL, how it started, how they sort of work different areas of the game, like pricing, and transfers and that kind of stuff. It was really good to talk to her, and it was a really good chat as well, just about the WSL generally. You know, we did a little sort of review of the weekend's games and all that sort of jazz, as well as the Fantasy WSL stuff. So if you haven't listened to that yet, go back and have a listen. It is really good. I'm not just saying that because it's my podcast. She was a really good guest. And well, fingers crossed she'll be coming back on the pod at some point as well. But let's have a look ahead to this weekend. Now, this is obviously a double game week for 4 teams. They are obviously the 4 teams that are playing on Wednesday. So West Ham versus Man City and Chelsea Leicester. They are the 4 teams that we're playing twice this weekend. They are players that, or the players in those teams will be ones that people will be looking to use and utilise this week, because obviously it is a double game week. You can get 2 lots, or double the points, hopefully. But it is going to be quite difficult to do that as well, because you don't want to have too many players in these teams, because obviously in future game weeks or the following game week, all of these 4 teams are not playing. So if you've got too many of these players, you're going to have people on your pitch that aren't playing at all, which isn't what you want. So let's have a quick look at who's been coming in and out this week. And the biggest transfer in this week, probably unsurprisingly, is Bunny Shaw. She is the player that has been transferred in the most so far this week, more than twice as many transfers in as any other player. The next highest player is Mary Fowler, and third is Jill Roord as it stands. 3 Man City players, obviously they have 2 games this week that you would expect them to win. The game on Sunday being away at Spurs, and then Wednesday away at West Ham. I think the one away at Spurs is probably the harder game. I think because Spurs are a slightly better team. But yeah, even though these are both away from home, you probably would expect Man City to win both of those. So it's unsurprising that a lot of people are trying to transfer in the Man City players. I'm definitely going to be making sure I've got 3 Man City players this game week, the maximum number you can have. Also quite interesting, not that many Chelsea players are being transferred in. In fact, I've got the list of the top 10 players transferred in this week so far in front of me, and the only Chelsea player on it is Millie Bright. She is 5th. Millie Bright was the only Chelsea player I've already got in my team, because she is one that is playing every week. I think that's why not many people are transferring in Chelsea players. Chelsea have obviously got a home game against Leicester. You'd expect them to win. Away game against Brighton. You'd expect them to win. But a bit like the famous Pep Roulette in FPL, you've got Bombast or Bingo, as I've coined for Fantasy WSL, because you don't know who's going to play. Especially in those midfield and forward positions, there's so much rotation that pretty much Hannah Hampton and Millie Bright are the only players that are definitely going to play. Millie Bright's someone I'm going to have in my squad. I'm going to wait until close to the deadline. Obviously, it's Monday at the moment. The games aren't until Sunday. I'm going to wait till close to the deadline to make my final decision. But I think I'm going to bring some Chelsea players in, but we'll wait and see. Looking at players that have been transferred out, there is one player that's been transferred out a lot more than anyone else, and that is Guro Reiten. She's been transferred out more than twice, by more than twice as many people as anyone else. However, when we start to look at some of the other players that have been transferred out, some of them do surprise me a little bit. Bethany England is one that is being transferred out, the second most this week so far. She surprises me because, yes, she's got a bad match against City this week, but after that, she hasn't got many bad games. I think a lot of the reason, she's actually got quite a good run of fixtures for Spurs. I think part of the reason that she's been transferred out a lot is because people are trying to make room for Bunny Shaw. I think that's the same reason that Rachel Daly is the 3rd most transferred out player, Olivia Smith is 5th, Alessia Russo is 7th, Kiko Seike is 8th. All of these players are forwards that are decent picks, maybe other than Olivia Smith at the moment, just because Liverpool's fixtures aren't very good. But yeah, people are transferring them out. So it is what it is, I guess. Chelsea players are players that I was surprised to see being transferred out so much, because Lucy Bronze is another one. She is the fourth most transferred out player so far this game week. Again, I think that's just the bumper store bingo. I think you don't know if she's going to be playing or not, because Chelsea have so many good options. Obviously, with people like Neve Charles back fit now as well, they need to rotate their squad. They need to keep everyone fit and fresh, more importantly, as we get into obviously the Subway Cup final, but late stage of the FA Cup, and most importantly for Chelsea Football Club is the late stage of the Champions League. Bompastor has been brought in to win that competition, and that is exactly what she is arranging her team to do. And the WSL at this point, when they're that far ahead and are looking pretty comfortable, is a nice to have if you win a game, but they can afford to lose a couple. So lots of rotation means it is a nightmare for us fantasy WSL players. So trying to think about what I'm going to do this week. My potential transfers, obviously, like I said, I'm probably going to wait till maybe Saturday to make a decision, listen to some of the press conferences, stuff like that, for the managers, hear who's fit and who's not. But I've got a couple of options of what I think I'm going to do. So if, and it's a big if, Naomi Girma is looking like she's going to be back and playing, she might be someone that I bring in, probably for someone like Katie McCabe, because Arsenal, although have a good match this week, she gets a lot of points from assists, from crosses, and West Ham are quite good defensively in the air. So I don't think it's going to be Katie McCabe's game, and it's the sort of thing that I could bring Girma in for McCabe this week and then switch them back next week. So I might do that. If not, if Girma's looking like she's not going to be fit, I think I'm still going to take Katie McCabe out, but I'm going to put Mpome, or however you pronounce the name. Sorry if I got that wrong. Mpom, the French centre-back at Chelsea. She is also a visionary because she's selected by fewer than 2% of fantasy WSL players. I think she's something like 4.5 million. But she is playing recently. So if Girma is still unavailable, it's looking like Mpom is getting the nod ahead of Natalie Bjorn. So she'll probably be playing alongside Millie Bright. Might even play both games. Might get some good clean sheet points. As for another transfer, I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do, because I did some, what I like to think is pretty good forward planning when I used my clean slate last week. A bit like a wild card you get in FPL. So the only other player that I'm contemplating bringing in is maybe Sunday Baltimore, depending on if I bring Girma in, because I think if I bring Girma in as well, I won't have the budget. But maybe taking out Olivia Holt, because she is not playing as much and being as influential as I thought she would be when I brought her in. Although Olivia Holt is still a visionary at Spurs, they've obviously got a tough game this weekend. Should definitely be on the bench for me against Man City. Maybe not after. If I can't afford Sunday Baltimore and I do want to get rid of Olivia Holt, I might contemplate bringing in Byings from Aston Villa. She's been playing a little bit more recently, especially under the new manager. She's been looking pretty good as well. She's been involved a lot in the sort of creativity in the attack. So she's one that I might look to bring in. I think she is also a visionary. So if she does get on the score sheet or get an assist or something like that, it is even more bonus points. But something I definitely will be doing this week is using my triple captain, because I've not done it yet this week. I was waiting for a week where something like this, where there's only a couple of extra games for the double game week. It's not like one where loads of teams are playing again. Because that is when I would use something like a bench boost or the wall, both of which I've already used. But for this one, I think it's with Man City playing twice, Bunny Shaw being a player that plays basically every game for Man City when she's fit. Bunny Shaw is going to be in my team. Yes, she's playing twice away from home, but it's away at Spurs. It is away at West Ham. They are two games that I expect Man City to win. If Man City win, normally Bunny Shaw scores at least one, chances are. So yeah, she's going to be my triple captain this week, getting double the games. Yes, they're away games, but she's just very good, and I reckon she might score. So that's what I'm going to go for. And that is it from me today. Before I go, I just wanted to plug, as I mentioned earlier, I recorded earlier today an episode of Decoding the Pros, the new series that we've started at Decoding the WSL. We talked to players, WSL players, past and present, about their playing career, a bit about their life off the pitch, learn a bit more about them as a person. I was really delighted to get Sophie Howard on as the first guest. I know she is a player that's talks really well about the game. She has a podcast herself and has been on a few others, and I've seen her in the media and stuff like that. So I was really looking forward to getting her on. She was one of my first choices to get on, so that was fantastic. She agreed. And yeah, it was a really good episode, I think. I hope it will be. I haven't edited it yet, but that'll be on tomorrow's to-do list. So yeah, look out for that in your feeds. Probably be Monday next week that gets released if all goes to plan. Keep your notifications on. You'll get it in a nice little notification as soon as it comes out. But yeah, and then I guess that's my cue to say that if you did enjoy today's episode, do make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And obviously give a 5-star review if you can, because it goes a long way in helping others find this show. You can follow at Decoding the WSL on Instagram. And as ever, follow me at Stattorino for more stats and insights and that kind of jazz on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok. Thank you, listener, is the only other thing to say. Thank you for joining me today, so it's not just me talking at a microphone by myself. Thank you for tuning in to Decoding the WSL. Once again, I'll speak to you at the next one.